The Ashes of Creation Combat Rework. And man, does it look good all of a sudden.
Let's jump straight into the showcase because there's a lot to go through. Right off the bat, we'll of course mention the Renkai and their new in-game reveal because in my opinion, they're pretty much perfect in both aesthetics and silhouette, especially in this badass coffin plate armor. Now, getting into the fighter itself, the team started with its class mechanic, combat momentum, which is generated from basic weapon attacks and a bunch of abilities. In addition to this, a few of the fighter's core abilities benefit from the use of this resource, and we'll mention that when we get into it. Moving on to the abilities, the first that was shown was Blitz, and is a classic gap closer that has some interesting vertical gameplay as you'll see from the footage. But you'll also notice as we continue the trend from the Ranger showcase, we get to see their expanded skill tree. However, I will not dive too deep into this whole tree in today's video, outside of showing you the benefits on screen here and there. Our next ability is one of the fighter's bread and butter skills, called Brutal Cleave, an AoE melee attack that interacts with another ability available to the fighter, a single target counterattack called Overpower. It sounds pretty much identical to World of Warcraft's Overpower, so there's a nice relatable reference for you. Next up is Maim, another AoE ability that looks absolutely fantastic animation-wise. Really great job with this one, Intrepid, but...
Okay, yeah, this is what we wanted. Telling me about, oh, we did a bunch of math and made things in the engine and stuff like that, yeah, that doesn't excite me. Seeing actual improvements on character looks, how they run, how they attack, now that matters a lot. And they're doing it. This is great.
It only gets better, because if you buff it using the skill tree, it becomes a range projectile-like ability, and
nice.
I've only got praise for this one. Keeping up with the theme of AoE, we move into Battle Cry, an AoE shout that buffs the player depending on how many allies are within range, whilst applying the Shaken debuff to foes. What Shaken does is way too out of the scope of this video, so we'll move swiftly on, as Area of Effect seems to be the general theme here as we move into another MMORPG classic, Whirlwind.
Okay.
This pretty much does what it says on the tin, and can be comboed well with other abilities. Now, the next ability received...
I don't know how I feel about the fact that when you click it, it's not instantaneous. Some stuff needs instantaneous snappy responses. And the fact that it has a wind-up timer, I don't know how I feel about that one, Chief.
A lot of criticism over the years, so Cataclysm has been completely revamped to be an ultimate AoE ability that looks absolutely fantastic. The only thing I'm not really a fan of with this skill is the fact that the rocks that are generated look like curved spikes. I think it would look way better if it displaced the ground in a more natural way instead, but that's getting way
Probably, but you know, it's still at least something that you kind of like.
too nitpicky. Moving along, the team showed a...
And also, notice the movements. The movements are so much better than previously. Well, unless the same movements look like with a mace. Again, you need to make movement look appealing. Not something that is going to make people quit the game in 5 minutes.
a more core ability allowing for more build diversity called Rupture. This applies a unique debuff called Wound that builds up as your enemies move, and it seems like Wound is going to be another way for the fighter to spec and specialize in, so I'm really looking forward to testing this in Alpha 2. As Blood is our current theme, let's talk about Blood Fusion. This is an off-global cooldown buff with a long cooldown that heals the fighter as they deal damage and also regenerates their mana. It is basically just a sustainability. Hey, I heard you guys like World of Warcraft. Crippling Blow is a single target attack that applies a simple snare effect. So it is basically just hamstring from WoW for reference. So I'm not
Yeah, I was gonna say that. So it's basically just hamstring.
really gonna deep dive this one too much. I'm sure you get it. The next ability, or Lethal Blow, is also one similar to WoW's Warrior, as it's Ashes of Creation's Execute. However, what's interesting about Ashes of Creation's iteration is that it can be spec'd to actually return health and mana to the fighter dependent on that overkill damage. So I'm really pleased to see the evolution of this spell be brought into 2024. Now, with that said, it's time to move on to the fighter's primary resource spenders. As mentioned before, combat momentum is the fighter's resource that is generated through weapon attacks or abilities, and can be spent on special skills that act as additional gap closers or on the fighter's ultimate spell for a very powerful buff. The first of these is Lunging Assault, and charges the fighter forward a short distance for a small amount of momentum. However, the more interesting one is Leap Strike, that allows you to choose a location and sends the fighter into the air, slamming down on their opponent.
The animation is slightly scuffed, but hey, I get it.
I find this whole momentum mechanic very, very interesting because it's like you're trading mobility for damage, and I can see this being super fun in both PvE and PvP. Whew. So, before we talk about the fighter's final spell,
the animation is definitely pretty good.
Let's touch upon some more depth and explain the fighter's three forms.
Could use a lot more work, but you know, it's not bad.
Forms: ferocity, celerity, and fluidity. These forms drastically change the playstyle of the fighter dependent on your current momentum. Ferocity increases attack speed, celerity increases movement speed, and fluidity increases your crowd control resistance. Again, it is very similar to classic World of Warcraft
That's strange.
warrior stances, except just brought into a more modern era. Which leaves us nicely on the fighter's ultimate ability, Exert, a powerful buff that consumes all your momentum very quickly and allows the fighter to basically go into a fantastic looking berserker rage.
Okay.
Overall, I was very pleased with the spells in general and the direction that they're going with the fighter. Now, I just want to say that I know I referenced WoW a lot here, and I also did with the Mages Showcase. However, it's important to remember that these spells are mostly traditional Dungeons and Dragons spells, not World of Warcraft ones. And although I'm sure there's some inspiration here, WoW's spells were also greatly inspired by Dungeons and Dragons. To conclude the fighter, the team moved on to the actual greatsword itself, discussing the progress that they've made with the weapon skill tree. As you can see, it's been completely reworked compared to its first version we saw in the Ranger Showcase, and it now has a much more branching skill tree with passive buffs that allow for some interesting build choices. Unfortunately, this system is very in-depth, far too in-depth for me to crack.
Is it very in-depth? Swiftness adds a sword grabble combo. Okay, well, maybe it's not just passives. In that case, that's kind of good.
All the information in this video due to it being broken into finishers, passives, buffs, and attack combos. Bear in mind, this is just one of the weapons in Ashes of Creation, and any class can use any weapon, so the diversity is going to be insane. Luckily for you, my dear viewer, we can look forward to a deep dive on this later this week as we discuss the implications of this incredibly in-depth system. The final section of today's livestream was a look through the Oakenbane Keep story arc that started at the end of last livestream, showing us how Ashes of Creation's dynamic world moves the narrative forward, and I will be playing the highlights of this in the background. The problem with this section was it wasn't really that interesting information-wise, therefore I will just be playing the highlights of this in the background whilst we show off the character art segment. To start with, I am a little sad that we didn't get to see the female Renkai, so whilst I'm mentioning this, I will sneak in a small personal opinion. To me, a female orc would look vastly different to the male, but still retain that muscle. And I hope their inspiration comes mostly from Lineage 2.
That's pretty good. Whatever this is, I like it. I like what I'm seeing.
From Lineage 2 rather than whatever this
I don't like this
old concept art was. They did confirm that this isn't an accurate representation of the female, but it's also important to note that Ashes of Creation's character creator is very similar to BDO's, so regardless of the base frame, I'm sure it will be changeable anyway. To be honest, I forgot what this tangent...
Okay, now this combat looks so much better. That's nice. That's what you want to see. Dude, again, we have complained about this so long that the combat just does not look appealing in the slightest. And you know, there we go. Suddenly, it actually looks appealing. This is great.
Was meant to be conveying as I was scripting it, and I think I'm talking more through my cock than my actual brain. So let's move on to the rest of the
Well, admittedly, it kind of looks a little bit scuffed still, but you kind of get the point. It looks better. Though, Mana for Warrior does seem a little bit like, I don't have a problem if every class uses Mana as a general rule. But I feel that you're kind of missing out on opportunities if you do have things like Rage and whatnot for Warriors. Though they do have their stackable resource that kind of works like Rage or Holy Power in World of Warcraft for Paladins, if that's how Holy Power works. I never played a Paladin. Who plays Paladins? Anyway, it does offer you a lot of new things, so I'm assuming they're gonna have something of that sort. But, you know, I don't have a problem with mana being a general thing that everyone uses by default. I don't think it's bad. As long as you can balance its usage.
Concept. First off, they showed us the Carfin leather armor variant, including
Wow,
a
no one
high-quality
cares.
turntable, as well as in-game Nikua with their starting armor, giving us 3 out of the 8.
Okay, can we just, you know, get rid of this, whatever this is supposed to be, and just, you know, add hot chicks? I mean, damn, boy, you know, hot chicks are good. I think I'm a fan personally, you know?
Races so far in the roster. Next up, we got to look at an interesting new mechanic that we've not heard of before in the form of a Tauren God Spike. These look like an important node mechanic or siege mechanic due to the name labeled on the top. And Steven also mentioned that we're going to see more of these next month, so maybe we'll see a node be destroyed, but we'll try not to get our hopes up too much. And finally, we got to look at some concept updates to nodes, also likely coming to fruition next month as well.
Oh, look at this. The classic. Where is it? Where is it? Oh, here it is. Wait a little bit. Look at that.
Too much. And finally, we got to look at some concept.
Ah, there it is. The classic big bridge. Why is it there? I don't fucking know. Why is it a big bridge? I don't fucking know. Was it ever useful? I don't fucking know. But it's a big bridge. It's not an MMO if you don't have a big bridge type of... Wait, but does World of Warcraft have a big bridge type of thing? I'm not... No, it does... No, well, there is one. But that would make sense. It's the one in Arathi that connects to whatever wetlands, I think. That's what it's called. Yeah, there's that, but, you know, that's a big bridge that makes sense because there's a reason for it to be. This is just your classic big bridge because reasons. I mean, I love big bridges. Everyone loves big bridges, okay?
Updates to nodes, also likely coming to fruition next month as well. And that's pretty much everything from this month's 3-hour
Oh,
live
this
stream.
looks also better. We saw this previously and it was kind of okay.
Our live stream.
But now this is different. Wow, this is better. Whoa, man. Again, dude. People got so depressed with this garbage that people were calling Ashes of Creation a scam. Actually. But now that they update the way it looks, I like it. I like it. I think it's meaningful progress. I like it a lot. Again, people are selling, you know, pre-order starters and GoFundMe starters with just adding basic animations because that's what people like. If you want to sell something, you need to have good animations. It doesn't matter if you tell us, oh, we did 5 months of math to figure out how this wind is gonna blow and interact with the leaves on the tree. And I'm gonna be like, wow. I care so little, I want to check out. And you know, or alternatively compare it to, we made this basic attack look better. And I'm going to be like, yeah, let's go, baby, yeah, that's what I want to see, yeah. There's a difference. Most people are not coders and mathematicians when we're talking about gamers. A lot of them are. But that's your problem, honestly. You know? I want to see progression that I can understand that matters. I don't care about your magical engine things that happened and why they work or don't work. I want to see this. I want to see a big swing and it creates debris. I want to see a field of snow and this. Dude.
I cannot express how much information was in this live stream, so I'm sorry if I missed any small details, but as always, I recommend you watch that full 108-minute showcase, because not only does my re-upload not do its 4K justice in terms of quality, but the sound design this month was genuinely amazing.
Ah, that's absolutely fine. Anyway, that was Narc. I mean, again, I am a big fan of it. Like, dude, this looks so much better. And at the very start, the part where I skipped, you actually could see a little bit more of the stuff here. You know, you could see some of this. Look.
Incredible story arc.
Actually, let me look at this.
Into a
Yeah, you see that?
fighter archetype, but we also got a
the basic attacks of the mage
brand new race
with wands.
Reveal, a deep dive into
This is so better. Admittedly, maybe it's a little bit too flashy and you need to tame it down if it's being completely real. But this is so better than it was previously. And that matters. That matters. A lot of things here are kind of like, okay, they could look better, but at least you understand where they're going. And at least this is a mechanic in the game that I can understand. Not some kind of BS, you know, that's from a faraway kingdom in a faraway land in a faraway galaxy. Okay? I do think that they're gonna have to change things like the Whirlwind or Bladestorm or whatever they want to call it. Because that shit needs to be snappy, okay? A lot of attacks with warriors, if they have wind up, it's too much. If you have wind up for a warrior class and it does something large, fine. But if you have too much wind up for everything, even basic stuff, it's like, if you're not Black Desert Online or Lost Ark, you're probably not nailing it. Let's be real here. So, there are a lot of things I still think they could improve, but this looks so much better. And especially, like, the movement here. The character, the way it moves, the way it holds his sword, the way he puts it on the shoulder there, that's so good. That actually looks good. That looks appealing, dare I say. And this is what we previously were missing, you know, like someone's running with a mallet and it looks like a spaghetti or something. It looks like it's made out of foam. It was so bad. This though, everything looks so much better. So I think we're back, boys. I think we're back. Anyway, have a nice day. Bye-bye.